On August 28, the China Dissent Monitor (CDM) of the American human rights advocacy organization Freedom House released its latest report. Compared with the same period last year, China's number of objections increased by 18% to 805. Since CDM began collecting data in June 2022, it's recorded 6,300 objection cases. The report defines dissent as expressing dissatisfaction, asserting rights, or expressing opinions and advancing relevant interests in disputes with the Chinese Communist Party authorities or powerful figures. Most of these objections were related to economic issues, 44% of which were labor issues, and 21% involved homeowners whose interests were harmed. The region with the most dissent incidents is Guangdong Province, accounting for 13%, followed by Shandong, Hebei, Henan, and Zhejiang provinces. China's economy is entering a 4-decade period of stagnation, with growth hampered by a housing crisis, China's trade war with the US, a crackdown on private enterprise, and costly epidemic lockdowns in previous years. So far, measures Beijing has implemented in an attempt to stimulate the economy appear to have failed. This report reflects people's dissatisfaction across China and highlights the economic challenges facing the ruling Communist Party. These challenges have the potential to evolve into broader governance issues. A social volcano is brewing, and the CCP is also sitting on the crater of a volcano. Let's first take a look at the severe situation currently facing China's economy. China's real estate crisis. The housing market does not obey the party's command. In 2008, the subprime mortgage crisis broke out in the US, and the financial tsunami spread around the world. To stimulate real estate and boost the economy, the Chinese government announced that the deed tax rate would be reduced to 1% for first-time homebuyers, and stamp duty and land value-added tax would be temporarily exempted. The lower limit of loan interest rates was based on 0.7 times the interest rate, and the minimum down payment ratio was adjusted to 20%. Just after the first quarter of 2009, the residential transaction area in 24 of the 30 key cities increased month-on-month. In 10 cities, the month-on-month growth rate even exceeded 50%. In 2016, China once again stimulated real estate to boost the economy. The plan was to demolish old and small buildings in the city that were difficult to support, provide cash subsidies to the relocated households, and encourage them to use the money to buy houses. This plan started the fire in China's real estate market. Through this plan, real estate companies including Evergrande, Country Garden, and others expanded instantly. In China, housing prices in first-tier cities such as Beijing and Shanghai are among the most expensive in the world. The ratio of housing prices to residents' income is far higher than that in major cities in the world, such as New York, Paris, Tokyo, and London. Such rapid development has caused China's asset prices to continue to rise. Both companies and residents are borrowing heavily, and risks are accumulating. The report of the 19th National Congress of China in October 2017, entitled "Houses are for living in, not for speculation," appeared for the first time. There were signs of government intervention in the real estate industry. In 2020, the Beijing government introduced strict regulatory measures which changed the survival conditions of almost all Chinese real estate companies. Companies such as Evergrande curbed their crazy expansion and took on staggering amounts of debt. In 2021, the real estate industry was in deep decline, and large and once famous companies such as Evergrande and Sunac were also struggling to cope with debt pressure. In 2022, under China's strict epidemic prevention and control, economic expectations rapidly deteriorated and property market sales hit bottom. At the Politburo meeting in July 2023, housing is for living, not for speculation was no longer mentioned, and the policy direction began to turn around. However, the stimulus policy has been tepid since then. On May 17, 2024, China's State Council suddenly released 3 big moves in one day. Significantly reducing the down payment ratio, reducing provident fund loan interest rates, and removing restrictions on commercial loan interest rates. The government will also establish 300 billion yuan in affordable housing refinancing to directly purchase existing housing stock. Despite the stimulus measures, the housing market's downward trend has not been stopped. Due to abnormal development of China's real estate industry, it's difficult for the CCP government, which can command everything, to command the real estate industry or the Chinese economy to obey the party's command. China's real estate industry is in tatters, people are losing their life savings, and protests are growing. According to World Bank estimates, China's real estate investment accounts for 13% of its gross domestic product, compared with only 5% in OECD countries. If all supply chain industries are included, the real estate industry accounts for about 30% of China's GDP. Due to the real estate crisis, the problem of half-finished houses that cannot be built has appeared all over the country. According to estimates by Japanese financial services company Nomura Securities, China currently has 20 million unfinished properties waiting to be completed, and the completion of these properties will require US $440 billion in funds. Many mainland media organizations estimate that the number of unfinished buildings owned by Chinese real estate tycoon Evergrande has reached 1.62 million units, involving 6 million owners. We all scraped together money to buy this house. Now that we know the construction will be stopped, I wonder what will happen to our family. I don't have the courage to live anymore. I really want to jump off this building. Another tycoon, Country Garden, said pre-sales of unfinished apartments in December last year were 6.91 billion yuan, a 69% drop compared with the same period last year. This important indicator of a company's future revenue has declined for 9 months. The company's pre-sales for the second half of 2023 fell by 74% compared with the same period last year. My husband and I inspected the building and counted each floor to see which floor we bought. We were looking forward to living in it as soon as possible, but today they stopped working on it. We wanted to talk to the developer about this regarding the resumption of work. They lied to us again and again. The difficult-to-solve problem of unfinished buildings has put many Chinese families in trouble. If an estimated 3 people are living in a household, the lives of 30 to 60 million people are affected. This direct economic loss has led to a sharp increase in protests in China, and dissatisfaction with the government has begun to become public. The official name of police in China is the People's Police, but the following Chinese police officer explained the true meaning of this slogan. In the last 3 minutes, the public security organs will clear the scene. If you don't leave the scene, you will be taken to the police station and dealt with by the law. On behalf of the police, I tell you today that you are not ordinary people. You are not here for sightseeing. You are here to report problems. You are here to petition, and you must leave immediately. You won't let us petition. I serve the people, not you. Do you represent the people? You only represent yourself. Don't use this as an excuse, okay? Who can you represent? Do you represent the people? Ask me to serve the people? Who do you represent? Don't you serve the ordinary people? China's small and medium-sized banks are experiencing an unprecedented crisis. The China Financial Stability Report 2023 released by the Central Bank of China shows that the number of high-risk banks in China currently reaches 337, with total assets of 910 billion. These are mainly small and medium-sized banks. Since April this year, the central bank has issued more than a dozen warnings that the bond bubble may burst, leading to financial market instability. According to information on the official website of the State Administration of Financial Supervision of China, on June 20th, in the week ending June 24th, 40 small banks disappeared and were absorbed by large banks or dissolved. Even at the height of the savings and loan crisis in the US in the mid-1980s, banks were not failing so quickly. In addition, at least 337 banks are officially listed as high-risk institutions. Some analysts pointed out that a more significant financial crisis followed after the collapse of real estate, one of the pillars of China's economy. China's small banks are experiencing a double crisis in savings and loans, S&L. Shockwaves are sweeping across the entire Chinese banking and financial system. In 2022, the Xijiazun Town Bank in Henan Province was involved in a US $4.2 billion fraud case in which about 600,000 people lost their savings. To recover their life savings, the depositors walked on the streets to defend their rights, but the Henan authorities suppressed them in the name of counterterrorism. Many depositors were arrested, beaten, illegally detained, and under strict surveillance for a long time. The reality of bank failures is threatening social stability. Let's take a look at the following popular protests across the country. Return the money, return our hard-earned money. Pay back the money. Pay back the money. When will the victims see the sun? People are being arrested again. The People's Police protect the people. The People's Police protect the people. Such a big bank closed down just like that. Is the Chengchuan head office of the Agricultural Bank of China closed down? Look, it's closed down. There was also an incident in Shanghai where investors from Haiyan Wealth came to the headquarters to defend their rights. A conflict broke out at the scene. An investor involved in rights protection fell to the ground. A man next to him shouted, "My mother has heart disease." My mother has heart problems, so you can't do anything. My mother has heart problems. Let me go. The extremely high unemployment rate makes it difficult for the CCP government to sleep well. According to data from China's Ministry of Education, the number of fresh college graduates in 2024 will reach 11.79 million, a year-on-year increase of 210,000. Also, there are still graduates from the past 2 years who have not found jobs in China's job market. Before the old graduates have moved through the system, this year's and next year's graduates will come. So what is the actual youth unemployment rate in China? According to the calculation of Peking University professor Zhang Dandan, it should be 46.5%. But it's much more than that because it does not include the flexible employment rate of the rural population or colleges and universities. So the actual youth unemployment rate in China should be above 50%. China's current economic environment and job market are in a bad state, with foreign capital fleeing and real estate crashes. Large factories are laying off employees, and even central and state-owned enterprises are having a hard time. Faced with such a high youth unemployment rate, the Chinese Communist Party government is worried. The employment rate in Beijing is now 1 to 100,000. That means you sit comfortably in the office with your lipstick on, and 100,000 people are competing for that one job. Last year, more than 10 million people graduated and were not yet settled. This year, there are more than 10 million more. There are also 20 million career workers who continue to compete with you. 40 million people competed for jobs in the same year. I still think this number is too low. It's not only college graduates who have difficulty finding jobs, but also a large number of middle-aged people are losing their jobs. When these people want to find a new job, they encounter the 35-year-old curse, a widely discussed workplace topic in China, which refers to the lack of competitiveness of job seekers after the age of 35 in the labor market, and makes it difficult to find a job. On BozGPin, China's most prominent recruitment platform, some positions directly state that they do not hire employees over 35. I just interviewed for a job with a monthly salary of RMB 3,500 or US $490, but was rejected. This is the 10th company I interviewed this year, and the 10th company I was rejected because of my age. I suddenly feel helpless. 3 years ago, I was working for a job with a monthly salary of RMB 20,000 or US 2,800, but now no one hires me for RMB 3,500. I went for another interview today. I interviewed 3 companies and was rejected by all of them. The reason was that I was too old, 35. One of the companies was introduced by a friend. He told me that if it weren't for the introduction by a friend, he would hardly interview me. I think it's funny. Fortunately, I am single and have no children, house or car. I don't know whether it's a good or bad thing to say now. Foreign capital withdraws and a large number of companies close down, exacerbating social unrest. In the third quarter of 2023, China's foreign direct investment amount became negative for the first time in the past 25 years. That is, the total amount of funds withdrawn from China by foreign investors was greater than the total amount invested in China, which has never happened in the past 25 years. At its peak in 2013, the net value of foreign direct investment in a single quarter was as high as US $110 billion. But by the third quarter of 2023, this number had become negative US $11.8 billion. The biggest impact of the withdrawal of foreign invested enterprises is the unemployment of white-collar workers in first and second-tier cities. At the same time, the withdrawal of foreign capital has also caused a series of chain reactions. Most of the suppliers used by these foreign invested enterprises are Chinese companies, so there have been large-scale layoffs. The transfer of industrial chains means the closure of factories and the unemployment of a large number of blue-collar workers in second and third-tier cities. Not only that, according to Radio Free Asia, there is a tide of exit in China's high-end catering market. The internationally renowned Taiwanese delicacy Din Tai Fung will close 14 branches in Beijing and Tianjin before the end of November this year. In the first half of this year, 1.056 million catering-related companies in China closed down. A large number of restaurants began to close down in 2023, when the number was 1.359 million. From January to June 2024, in just 6 months, this figure is equivalent to the entire year of last year. Let's take a look at the videos uploaded by several bloggers on social media, which show the current situation of restaurant closures in Shanghai, Kunming, and other cities. Nowadays, when you open a store, you give away money. This is the center of Shanghai, number 1 Huahai Road. Let's take a look at the current business environment. I ran from the first to the third floor, and more than 2 shops closed on each floor. This place was still fully occupied this time last year, less than a year ago. What do you think? In the first half of this year, 1.05 million restaurants closed, which is close to last year's total. The barriers to entry in catering are low, but it isn't easy to do well. Would you still choose to do catering? The situation is not optimistic. This is a restaurant street in the county. It turns out that this place is very crowded. Come and see the shops here: leasing, renting, transferring, renting directly from the landlord. This Shandong barbecue is for transfer, and the vegetable supermarket is for transfer and rent. This store sells electric cars, which are also for sale. The vacant house at the corner of the intersection is for rent at a low price. This supermarket has vacant houses for rent, and the houses next to it are for rent. This isn't a county town. This is the situation. On August 23rd, another incident occurred in the countryside of Maoming County, Guangdong, China. The local government sent police to the seaside to forcibly demolish a fish farm and beat and arrest farmers who resisted. According to villagers, to build a tourist attraction, the local government forcibly relocated farmers in the area to a sea area that was not suitable for breeding, and the compensation was unreasonable, which led to strong resistance from farmers. The government sent people to dismantle the fish farmers' fishing nets forcibly. We farmers can't survive. They are now using force, pulling our fishing nets and catching our fish. There are also various social problems emerging one after another. Recently, hundreds of cars had their windows smashed in many communities in Jinan, Shandong. Insiders revealed that it was a gang of young people who committed the crime and smashed the car windows to steal property. All the cars parked on the roadside were smashed. It can be seen that the economic situation is tense and theft is getting worse. Everyone must pay attention to safety. We must park our cars in our own garages or in places with surveillance. The police said that more than 100 cars were smashed. Everyone must pay attention.